All right, if there's one area that's been used from this theory so many times, so much times, it's this last part. And I have seen this adapted to age and to different societies and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give you defining the individual straight from what the theory says. And then you'll see this all over the place. You'll go, hey, wait a minute. When I was in college, I learned about that. Well, I'm going to hit this real quick. So what are we looking at? Well, if we're going to talk about how innovation diffuses through a society, right? That's what we're looking at. Then we definitely got to take a look at the way people are, like fundamentally the way they are. And so defining the individual, we're going to jump down here to this portion. So when we define the individual, this really affects their adoption rate. You have early adopters, and then you have the early majority, and you can see that makes up almost primarily half of it. There's also the change agents in here, and I haven't put them in on this little chart. Then you've got the late majority, which a ton of people are in. So you can see most of the area here that we're covering in our populace, and any populace, is early and late majority. And then you have the laggards. That's a good name for them. All right, so let's take a look. What are they? Well, the early adopters here, well, let's take a look at the innovators first. Those are the ones I didn't include on the little chart because they're so small. Innovators take chances, often have financial resources that allow them to take those chances. However, they are rare and account for only 2.5% of the populace. So if we go back to using a cell phone, right, which that goes back into the 50s, guys. They called them car phones because you had to have a big radio in it to make it work. But nonetheless, right, an innovator would have said, that is cool because I'm stuck on the road all the time and I need to talk to people. So that's going to save me a ton of money, but it's going to cost me a ton of money to actually buy into that and use it. True. So I don't actually have them in the chart. They'd be right here. So let's move on to the rest of us. You may be an innovator, right? You may be an innovator, but lack the financial resources. I want to point that out. So you may be, yeah, I would do all the, because I would, right? I'd be spending money like crazy on all sorts of innovative things, but I don't got that kind of money. I can't do that. So I'm really actually in the early adopters because I can't afford to be an innovator. Sometimes I do it anyway. Early adopters make up 14% of the populace. They're usually very respected in their social system. They accept technology early on, and they're sought out by potential adopters for information and advice, meaning they are role models and change agents. So not joking, in organizations, if you're in an IT group and you've got to push out something brand new, you would look for the change agents and have them help you push the new technology. That honestly is usually not done very well. A lot of times IT is brought in kicking and dragging because that's just another responsibility they have to deal with. And then they don't look for anybody in the organization and say, you know what, they're really in on this. Let's give them this opportunity to be a part of the forefront. They'll be part of our beta team, our beta testers. We'll get them into the technology, and then they can talk it up to everybody else, and it'll help the adoption rate. And meaning it'll make so our society here at work is not upset at us, right? Because I'm telling you, these laggards and these late majorities, they're going to be upset with you. They're upset with any kind of change. Right, so those in the early majority category account for 35% of the populace and are deliberate in evaluating new ideas and technology. That usually comes down to the idea that, yeah, this looks like a good idea, but I'm not just going to jump on any old bandwagon because what if we're switching to something else? Everybody that's been at work has at one time or another been burned by technology, where they went all in on something the organization was going to do, and then the organization backed out of it, probably because they didn't implement it correctly. And so then they're left hanging like, yeah, I spent like 6-8 months. You know, I put tons of time into this, and then you just flushed it. And so they're a lot more deliberate in evaluating what's happening. Yet they are valuable because they link early adopters to the late majority, right? They're the people that are talking to the early adopters and finding out what's going on, and they become the early majority. So now half the organization pretty much is using the technology and likes it, but the late majority is still kicking their feet against everybody. This, I can use an example of EAC, and it's no slam on EAC. EAC is very proactive and very student centered, and they really want what's going to make it the best learning opportunities for the student. I'm not lying. That's one of the biggest reasons I love working here. But within any system, you have people that are late majority and even laggards. And there are people, we have instructors that have held off not doing online stuff. They've held off saying, I'm not going to do that, even though the early adopters were already there, the early majority is already there, the innovators were already there because it didn't cost them any more to do it, right? They're all there doing their stuff. And then COVID hits. And now some of the late majority and all of the laggards are not ready, right? Their classes are not online. They're not even sure how to get them online or how to present in that fashion, where everybody else has already accepted it and moved forward with it. And EAC being very wise, right? They didn't force everybody. They didn't say, you're going to be fired if you don't do this, because that's not the company, that's not the organization, right? And then that's a good thing. Even though everybody was strongly, hey, and this was years ago, you really need to use these course shells, right, within Canvas. Let your students see your grades. If you're not doing anything else, put some resources out there for them, put the grades out there for them. So students have an easy time of getting to that. And so they were really, really promoted to do that, but you still had laggards that were not doing that. And they really suffered when the time came that all of a sudden within 3 weeks or whatever it was, I can't remember, you better get that stuff online because that's how you're doing the class. And if you can't do that, then your student's hurting. And why in the heck would you want that to happen, right? Anyway, that's just examples of where this stuff fits in, and knowing it, right? If you know it from a management perspective, if you ever get in that situation, then we have this group of people and these are their names. How can we help them move forward? Well, let's put them in this course. We're going to tell them, you need to come in and take this, right? Everybody else has kind of moved with this, but you haven't yet. And it is our policy that you do it. So let's help you in there, right? Let's help you move. Knowing these things help from that standpoint. Of course, what I'm trying to also help you understand is that in tech support, you're going to meet all of these kinds of people. And it's important to know when you're dealing with a laggard. For some reason, I was lucky. And honestly, I wasn't lucky. I was a computer tutor for EAC back in the day. And that put me in the company of people that were trying to learn computing when they really didn't want to. They just knew that they had to. And so when I went to work, I ran into, I don't know how many people. They never get me to use that computer. And I could just approach them in the way that I needed to approach them. And then honestly, I don't know how many that I dealt with that were like that, but several. And within 6 months or so, right, they're the change agents, right? They're like, this is awesome, this is incredible. But being able to identify them as this person is a laggard, even though I didn't know what that was then, and being able to say they need extra help, right? They need to see what this is doing. They're not, whatever they've seen so far does not fit in their head as something that's important to them. So if I can show them that, oh, this will help your life this way, they will be on board. And that always happened. And so when I had to study this theory, I was like, oh my goodness, there's my life. That's what I did in IT. And so it will help you, even if you're the tech support, right? Of being able to look and go, oh, I gotta go over and talk to old Joe. So I'm gonna have to approach him this way because he actually fits in this laggard group, right? So late majority, they're skeptical. In society, they don't have the same resources. In other words, they don't have money to spend on a smartphone, that kind of thing. But in a business, the resources are not that important. they have the same resources as everybody else. And then laggards, they comprise 16%, and I've already kind of shown you what they are, but they don't want anything to do with innovation unless they can really be convinced. In society, the laggards don't move until all of these have moved. Once everybody has accepted mobile technology and smartphones, then the laggards buy in. Now, sometimes that's because a laggard is basically, they don't have the financial risk, right? They cannot afford that. And so as time moves along, it becomes cheaper for them. And then they finally are like, well, at least I can afford it, even though I don't want to do it, that kind of thing. Right, so that is IDT. It's taken some time to get through that, but if we take a look at our modules here, you will see that you are going to have a study guide. You have a study guide. There's a study guide, and then there's a test. So again, this study guide, you can open it up, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. I think I've got it set for like 5 times, and then you take the test over it. So, and the social theories test will be timed again, so that you're not just picking through the material that I've got out there so that you can answer the questions. And anyway, that is the information. I know it will be useful to you. I'm not trying to be arrogant about that. I'm just saying I have used this, I've seen it used. And you're going to go into a whole world where the honest truth is they don't even know or consider any of this. And I'm not telling you to go educate them about it. Sometimes people don't want to hear from the new guy, you know, but it's something that you can use to be very successful in your interactions with people from the day one that you go in to you becoming a manager and getting paid tons of money to make sure that you're guiding the company the way it needs to be guided, and that the millions you're spending and you're saying, yeah, we're going to move this app to mobile is not wasted. And the fact that you can now use that information to help those people, right? If you know that's the way it's going, then, and you know you have a huge group of late adopters or laggards in your facility, then you can say, we're going to find the change agents and we're going to send them out and we're going to give them a little extra money so that they'll train others, or we're going to have them present here or there. Right, and you're going to use all that, and then once the change agents get others, then you're going to use them, and you'll increase that adoption rate because you know that they need to be able to see people using it, that they need to be able to try it themselves in a non-stressful, you must weigh all the things that are in this material. You'll be able to take and put into play, and of course, what happens to you? You did it. Good job. I mean, that was your project, and I can't believe how you were able to get that done. Fantastic. And what you've done is really just follow the social rules that are actually been around there since the early 2000s in knowing how this has to be propagated. So if you want a little help on understanding it, you know, please, you know, send me an email and I'll pull up some more examples. But try to think of your own examples to help you understand, like, who in my family is a laggard? Who is somebody that would buy all the latest tech and try it out? What times have I actually chosen something because my social group approved of that more than something else? Just on and on. Think of how all this has happened in your life, and that will really help you learn what this will do for you later.